Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Brian Buck, and on behalf of the Hahn family, I would like to thank you for joining us today. For today is not a day of mourning the loss of a loved one. Rather, today is a day we celebrate the life of an extraordinary man. Whether you knew Grandmaster Bong Hahn as family, friend, or master, there is no denying that his impact on everyone he met was memorable, meaningful, and life-changing. Today we will hear from those who knew him as family, called him friend, and knew him as master. Each person will share with you what Grandmaster Hahn meant to them, and in their reflections we will celebrate his life. Today will also serve as a gentle reminder to us all that the success of our lives will not be measured in dollars and cents, or by the number of belts we acquired, or the degrees we've achieved. Rather, it will be judged by how positively we impacted the lives of others, for that is the measure of true wealth. To look around here today, I can tell you without a doubt, Grandmaster Hahn was the wealthiest man I ever met. I'd like to start today's celebration with a poem that best describes the magnitude of the individual we are honoring today. The ancient masters were subtle, mysterious, profound, responsive. Their depth of knowledge is unfathomable. Because it is unfathomable, all we can do is describe their appearance. Watchful, like men crossing a winter stream. Alert, like men aware of danger. Courteous, like visiting guests. Yielding, like ice about to melt. Simple, like uncarved blocks of wood. Hollow, like cave. Opaque, like muddy pools. He who knows how to live can walk abroad without fear of rhinoceros or tiger. He will not be wounded in battle. For in him rhinoceros can find no place to thrust their horn, tigers no place to use their claws, and weapons no place to pierce. Why is this so? Because he has no place for death to enter. Our first speaker knew Grandmaster Hahn best as family. I'd like to introduce his son, Tad.
Thank you all for coming today. I'm supposed to give a speech in remembrance of my father. And I stand before you today as a representative of my father in the memory that not only was he my father, he was a father to many. He was father to my sister, Susan, grandfather to my son, Edward, and father to all that who came to know him. But most of all, he was Father Rapke. To describe a person that you have known for all your life was not easy. Not until his passing did I come to understand what my father meant to me and to all of us. Viewing the World Wide Web, viewing the Hapkido website, my father's memorial site, Hapkido Forum, I spent hours. And I noticed a great deal of commonality in the words that chose to describe my father. And I will describe these words to you because these words are best described from myself and also from all of you. Honor to have known him. Pioneer in his arts. A master, a grandest form. A pleasure to be around him. He was a teacher to all who desired. A warrior without a fear. A friend with a smile and a slap in the back sometimes. He was a man of wisdom that overflows, vision beyond life, knowledge to give us hope. It was a legacy we'll pass on. He was gentle of all men. Respect with deepest and utmost. He was a legend because only the few. Confidence with pride. He had impact without force. Integrity to his ancestors. Humility to himself. Grace, like running water. Dedication to his work. Inspiration to all. Mentor to many. Peace in his soul. Opportunity to experience. Role model to so many. He wasn't taught. He teached with patience. He was true, like an arrow. A spirit within our hearts. And lastly, Father to all of us. Thank you all for helping me understand what my father meant to so many. I also like to thank all of you who offered your kind condolences to our family. May our father's spirit rest in peace and his legacy continue forward. Thank you again.
Mr. Han's senior instructor. He's been with Grandmaster Han for over 30 years. Knew him best as master. Please have Master Frisky come forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I've had a long relationship with Grandmaster Han. It's difficult to cram it all in a 5-minute speech or synopsis. But I sat down and I took the points that I felt were most valuable. The beginning. It was 1967, Grandmaster Han arrived in the United States. He spoke little English and had little money in his pocket. He was on a mission to spread Hapkido throughout the world. I would often remember our conversations in his office about how hard it was. He would reflect back. One of the first jobs he got to earn money was driving a taxi cab in Los Angeles. Imagine, no English, no idea where you are, and driving a cab. He smiled and responded, "What could I do? I had to eat." He soon put his plan into action. His first school was in the downtown area of Los Angeles, which is now known as Koreatown. But this wasn't good enough. He needed to be where the action was. So he moved closer to the west side, the Culver City area. But this still wasn't right. Third time was the charm. He ended up in the Pacific Palisades, a little bedroom community on the west side overlooking the ocean. I was 11 years old when I first met Grandmaster Han. My father had signed up to take lessons at his small school in the Palisades. He made it to Blue Bell. I can remember sitting on the side of the mat area just watching in awe. It was as I had seen a ghost. Grandmaster Han was throwing students around effortlessly. I had never seen anything like that before. He was a gentleman and made me feel at home in his presence. I had no idea that this would be the beginning of a lifelong relationship. At this point in his life, Grandmaster Han was now where the action was. During his performance at a public demonstration, he was noticed by a gentleman named Tom Laughlin. who proved to be instrumental in Master Han's plan to spread Hapkido to the world. Grandmaster Han was the first true martial artist to utilize the medium of film to promote the martial art of Hapkido. The movie, you have all seen it, was Billy Jack. Upon completion of the Billy Jack films, he continued to promote Hapkido through his involvement in the film industry. During this period of time, he did not have a school where he could teach. Thanks to my father, he was able to teach classes in our home in the Pacific Palisades. This was my introduction to Hapkido. We held regular classes 3 times a week until Grandmaster Han was presented with yet another opportunity in film. A few years went by and I grew up. As a young teenager, I showed up at his school in Culver City. He recognized me right away, greeted me with a big smile. It was like I had never missed a day. And that was the beginning of my career. Grandmaster Han then relocated to Santa Monica. This would be the final destination for the studio where he taught Hapkido for over 35 years. To date, he has promoted 116 black belts and has graced the covers of 25 martial arts magazines. And he has traveled the world in his pursuit of the goal to spread Hapkido. We have a scroll in the studio, Do Shim, Way of the Heart. Everywhere he went, he opened his heart and shared his knowledge with those interested in the art of Hapkido. He would always say to his fellow martial artists, I don't want you to unlearn your art, but allow me to show you my art so you can better your art. His understanding of the martial arts and their philosophies was infinite. He was always in the pursuit of knowledge for the improvement of the art on a spiritual and philosophical level. He always knew when to push and when to pull back. He knew when to go down and how to build you up. He would make the weak feel strong and teach the strong to be humble. He was a complex man, yet a simple man. He understood when it was time to fight and never give up until you succeed, and that winning for the sake of winning is not winning at all. Do not think you have to win. Think you do not have to lose. Being a student of Master Han's was like reading the martial arts stories from the old days, where the master would ask, why do you want to train here? And if he didn't like the answer, he would send you on your way. It was a test. He would show us a technique and then leave. No questions, just figure it out. Come to find out, it was all part of the plan. I would often read books about the master-student relationship and wish I had the same, not realizing that I had it all the time. I would often arrive at the studio to teach class, and before class he would call me into his office. It was the start of my lesson for the day. We would talk about many different subjects, from politics to the future of Hapkido. It took some time for me to realize that my training had moved from the physical training to the mental and spiritual training. I realized he had taught me the art of Hapkido on a technical level, and it was up to me to grow as a martial artist. Before my father passed away, he shared this with me. Master Han has given you far more than I ever could have. He would lecture me on improving my life. He would always hold me accountable for my actions. As for excuses on why things weren't done, there were none. You were better off owning it. He taught me that time was valuable and everybody's time is worth something. When it was time to teach class, you were on the mat ready and your students should never be waiting for you. You lead by example. When attending class, if you were a minute late, you were not allowed in class. You might as well go home. Grandmaster Han always had time for his students, time to share his wisdom and guide them on their path as a martial artist. I would like you all to ask yourself one question. Are you fulfilling your students' needs as a martial arts instructor? Think about how Grandmaster Han has fulfilled your needs and passed that on to your students. There is not a martial artist here in this room that hasn't been touched by his indomitable spirit. each and every one of you remembers your first encounter with Grandmaster Han, as it left an indelible impression on your life, one that cannot be washed away with time, but only gets stronger as time goes by. Cherish those moments and share them with your students, because moments like those are few and far between. Over the 32 years I have studied under Grandmaster Han, there is one thing above all that stands out. He has taught me to be a better human being, and for that I am eternally grateful. Sir, we are all truly grateful for all you have given us. Your spirit will live in the hearts and minds of all martial artists. May you rest in peace, knowing that your legacy will live on. Thank you.
Over the last week, many of us have been reminiscing about our time with Grandmaster Han. My time with Grandmaster Han was about personal transformation. Started from the first words he spoke to me when I walked into his school. I told him, I'm thinking about maybe, I don't know, joining, and that's when he stopped me. And he said, don't think, just do. And before I knew it, I signed up for a year, I was given a dough book, and I was hooked. Now that may not sound extraordinary to you, but you have to understand who I was at that time. And at that time I was full of ambition, but I had no focus, I had no discipline, and I had a complete lack of commitment. Needless to say, I've certainly changed since our first meeting. And what I've discovered is that what Grandmaster Han really gave me was the tools I needed to achieve my dreams. Grandmaster Han was not a religious man, but he was a spiritual man of faith. And I believe the following scripture from the book of Mark, chapter 17, verse 20, would have resonated with Grandmaster Han. I tell you the truth, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Grandmaster Han taught many of us to have faith in ourselves. I believe that he knew the majority of our personal challenges had nothing to do with our ability to punch or kick, or our ability to breathe right, or our ability to defend ourselves. Rather, our challenges would be solved by just looking inward and having a little faith in our ability to achieve anything we choose to set out to do. You can hear in his tenets such as spirit first, technique second. It didn't matter that our technique was not technically perfect, however, it was very important that our effort was perfect. He encouraged that we find self-perfection before we sought ways to influence others. For he knew controlling ourselves was far more difficult than controlling others. His message was always simple, always hopeful, and always from the heart. It inspired us to have faith in ourselves, even though we may not have known why. He would have agreed with that statement, if you have faith, you can move mountains. He would tell us, just think what you can do if you can accomplish just this one thing. He would smile at our imperfections and applaud our efforts to improve. I think it is because he knew that those that seek to improve themselves have enough faith to move the most unmovable mountains, and that is ourselves. And if we ever started to lose that faith or question our faith, he would simply remind us, you know what to do. And we did, and we moved mountains. I tell you the truth, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. I'd like to introduce someone that knew Grandmaster Han as a dear friend, Grandmaster Shin.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is J.C. Shin from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Please allow me say the last message to my friends. We have together almost 47 years. My dearest friends, Grandmaster Bong Han, your loved family friends, and you kid, all students have gathered here together to say farewell. You have had a very proud 72 years life, which is now concluded here on earth. We are going to miss you very much. Looking back at your life, you have made it through a very tough course. At a young age, Korean, Second World War, Korean War, Vietnam War. Then almost 4 decades ago, you came United States of America to spread your ideals and dreams. You have been successful through all those challenges and obstacles, and you have stood proudly among the world's most prominent martial artists. You have demonstrated Hapkido and Korean martial art to the world and have enhanced the way that we all have embraced it. We all remember and honor you for a long time. There are so many people who still remember the technique you showed in the movies, especially Billy Jack. We remember how you fought alone in the pioneer age days to introduce Korean martial arts through many tough hills and difficulties. But you made it through to the highest level and have become a martial art hero. Not only to the Korean martial artists or people whose traditions and ways we live together, but to all many people whom you touched their heart. Your strong will, maintaining traditional value, and staying the true and correct path has shown you to be true martial artists. You have truly satisfied the 5 virtues of these masters: humanity, righteousness, modesty, wisdom, and trust. You are indeed a true martial artist whom I know. Well, my friend, we will continue on your path and follow your footsteps to work. Work hard to teach the way you taught this martial art. Goodbye. Rest eternally in peace. Thank you very much.
I'd like to introduce somebody that was very influential in Grandmaster Han's pursuit to spread Hapkido throughout the world. I'd like to introduce to you Tom Laughlin.
I've had to put some notes down here because there's so much I could be saying. But I would like to begin by telling you how we met. It has been mentioned here. My wife and I should bring my cleanups up. I'll get it. Went to the Palisades Park where they had their thank you very much July 4th celebration, and there was, among things, was this exhibition. And we were about to make a new movie called Billy Jack, which we had spent 7 years trying to get made because no one felt a movie about Indians would ever sell. And so we had to raise the money. And I didn't want the same old fighting. I was tired of those. The stuntmen are fantastic, but I didn't want that. We went there, and here in the middle of the Miss Palisades pageant, this little man gets up and he puts on an exhibition that absolutely destroyed us. Destroyed us. It was so exciting, a new way to put fights in a film. And so I met him afterward, and my wife, Dolores Taylor, who's here, was saying the main thing about him, the art was so violent, but he was such an incredibly tranquil, gentle man. So it was very hard to put that two together. And I told him what we were trying to do. He didn't know who we were. We weren't anybody. And he said he came here because he wanted very much to spread the knowledge of his art. He wanted to do some good for the community. And I said, well, that's where we came now. We wanted very much to make a change, to make a difference, however small. And so that was our beginning. We met. And I told him I did not want to do the normal, I didn't have time. We only had a couple months to do this movie, and I wanted to do those things he was doing in that exhibition, which he was killing, this poor student of his. I don't know how he got up and walked out. And I said, he said, okay, that'll be fine. We'll just work every day for 4 hours. I said, what? 4 hours? I learned then that he was a perfectionist. And for 4 hours, we cut it down to 2. And we worked very hard. And the most important thing about that, as my wife Dolores mentioned on the way in here, he was the most playful. They were always kidding each other and fooling around. And I'll tag one story on what they did, the two of them did to me in the second movie. But the main point is, I found out that this was a spiritual man. That it wasn't just physical violence and physical skill. He was a holy man. He was interested in the development of the spirit. And that's what Dolores and I had made the quest of our life, and we hit it immediately. I would like to just give you quickly our belief that all of us, at the moment of birth, we are all have in us potential, a greater personality by far that's present at the time of birth or any other time. We all have skills and talents and abilities and attitudes to be developed. They're all there in potentio. And at 6, when you look at a baby at 6 months, they can't ride a dog, walk, run. Look at them at 6 years, they have hundreds of abilities and skills they have developed. And at 16, thousands. And at 60, still more. And that has been our whole point of our life. And so when someone comes along, like a Bong Han, I call them a transcendent personality. They have developed this greater personality within to such a level that it transcends normal human beings can do. And Bong Han was that personality, one of those in our lives. I am going to I hope I don't offend anybody, but I always have a dislike for titles. When I was golfing and I'd meet on the golf first tee and the guy would say, I'm Dr. So-and-so. You know, I'd say, well, I'm actor, writer, producer, love it. And I'm counselor, so-and-so, you know. And so the same thing with master. There are the true great masters, and we have them here. But I didn't call Bong Han master. And he, after I said, I hate doing that, he said, I agree. So he was Bong. And I will refer to Bong here by the fact that once someone comes along who is a transcendent personality, who activates in you capacities that otherwise would never, skills and talents and attitudes about life, as Bong Han did, that was his dedication. When he does that, or she does that, they become a part of you. Part of your soul is put out onto them, and they carry that for the rest of their life, of our life. And so Bong Han did that to me. Let me tell you just one or two quick stories that just are too priceless not to tell. One time, we were sitting in Prescott, where you saw the film, in the bar there, And at Prescott in those days, you could carry a gun. Guys walked around with guns on their side, on their holsters. And a giant came, a cowboy. He was 6'6" tall, hard as a rock as he worked. And he just was probably 300 pounds. And he came up drunk and started challenging Bong. And he said, "Yeah, they say you're so tough. You know, I hear you're this little tough guy, blah, blah, blah. And you don't look so tough to me." And Bonsu is trying everything he can to back away, and we're trying to get, "Nah, come on, you little pipsqueak. They say you could kill me," you know, etc. And finally he reaches down to Bonsu, and the next minute I knew the guy's face was on the table, his arm was back, and his wrist was back. And Bonsu said, "What do you want me to break, your elbow or your wrist?" And the guy said, "Hey, that's pretty good. Can I buy you a drink?" And that ended that. Later, one of the members of the crew said to Bonsu, "Why didn't you just let it go? You could have killed him." And Bonsu says, "Yes, of course." He said, "Well, then why didn't you do it?" He said, "You know I could have killed him, and I know I could have killed him. So there's no sense proving it to a fool. If you spend your life proving things to a fool that don't understand him, you're wasting your time." And we all walked away saying, "Wow, this tranquil guy came from another place." Another story I have to tell you is in this trial of Billy Jack, and by the way, I was, after Billy, excuse me for 1 second, I have to sip some water. I too, like Bonsu, had a little tongue cancer episode, and they took away my saliva glands, so I get a dry mouth. Excuse me. After the Billy Jack, he got credit as the stuntmaster, but it was not known, and his art wasn't known to the extent we wanted it to. So in the trial of Billy Jack, we starred him, and he played a major role in that film and staged some of the great fights he's ever seen. But the point is that he and Dodie, Dolores, my wife, got together, and they secretly practiced for months the spin kick, where you drop, spin, and take the feet out from behind the other person, and didn't tell me because we wanted to have Billy Jack be shocked when he comes, and gentle Pacific Gene does that to him in a routine exercise. I didn't know she could do that. And if you ever see the film again, and you should see it for Bonsu's work, they do that. She drops down, I'm standing there talking, drops down, takes my feet out, and I go right on the back of my neck. Now the truth is, I was knocked out. Not completely out. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what, and I get to my knees, which was not supposed to be the scene, and I crawl, and I mumble the lines apparently correctly. And the camera goes cut, and they howl. I'm sitting there with a stress fracture in my vertebrae. She hit me so hard, and they just thought that was completely delightful. One last story I'd love to tell, because it tells Bond. It was said here that he was not a perfectionist. That was true. At whatever level you were, he was going to help you get to the next level and encourage you. But I found when he was a perfectionist. I will not mention his name because I don't want to harm him, but one of the great karate people of that time wanted desperately to be my stuntman in the film. And he came and auditioned for Bonsu, and Bonsu later liked him and said, "No, no, no. You see, his extension, you know, when you do the kick, if your foot is not at a complete right angle, you don't get the strength coming down from the arm, the leg bone. So it was meant, his foot was out. And if you ever see some of his work today, you'll see, it does. But in any event, having said that, he didn't take him. Now we're doing the trial of Billy Jack. And there's a scene in there where Bonsu Han is killed, is shot by this guy as the character. And Billy Jack gets enraged and comes flying across the room, leaps up, and does it right to his throat to kill him. So prior to to that scene, I had popped or torn, I think, 2 of my hamstrings. And it was very, very doubtful whether I was going to be able to do that scene. So I did nothing. Now we hired the stuntman, we brought him back to location, and they didn't see me do anything. And I was supposed to do this amazing kick, leap up the height of the man, and they see this wimpy actor who isn't doing any of his stunts, and they thought, of course, I'm a fool. Now comes the time for the big scene. We put the camera, I'm saving myself because if it tore, at least I would have that in the camera. And I come riding across the room, and I really get up. I get up above his head. My focus is right on his Adam's apple, and he realizes, oh my God, this guy can do this stuff. But the man, the actor who's waiting, he had a pad on his chest, so I would hit his chest, and that would be my stability, so I could drop down and gain my balance. But as I get that close, and he sees me really focused on his, and he sees how high I am, he moves. Just as my strike is coming, he got frightened. As a result, I can't hit him. I hit the camera. I broke my toe. I broke the camera, etc. So I'm sitting there groaning on the ground, and the cameraman had the camera smashed in his face. And I said, oh my God, you know. He says, no, it was perfect. He said, your height was perfect. Your focus was perfect. Your extension was perfect. I said, but I broke my toe. Bong Sue, I'm hurting here. No, that's temporary. That will heal. But the film will live forever. And you were perfect. That was Bong Sue Han. There are so many more stories. I'm sorry I couldn't get my wife to say some words because she's just too shy to do it. But because of that, Bong Sue taught us the last thing he taught me. We had breakfast in Santa Monica, and I was complaining how I was just so harassed, I wasn't getting anything done. And he says to me very simply, he says, do not talk on the phone till after 11 a.m. That was his secret. He could get work done that he wanted, or meditate, whatever. Don't talk on the phone. And it worked. That was the last I had. So because of what Bong Sue Han developed in me, because of the capacities that I never knew we had, I have to disagree slightly. The word religion from the Latin means religio, religiare, to bind back the lesser to the greater, man to God, whatever. Bong Sue Han had a religion. It was a spirituality that was priceless. And he developed these capacities in me and in my wife that would never have otherwise been developed. So he will carry that, he developed that part of my soul. And he will carry that part in me for as long as I live. The part of me that was Bong Sue Han is Bong Sue Han. And so to Bong Sue Han, in thank you and gratitude, I have to say, thank you, my friend. Thank you, Master Han.
Be appropriate at this point to direct your attention to the monitors. We've prepared a video retrospective of Grandmaster Han's life.
Mm-hmm. I saw Grandmaster Han in Billy Jack, and I thought to myself, uh-oh, now that is real martial arts.
I'm gonna take this right foot, and I'm gonna walk you on that side of your face. And you wanna know something? There's not a damn thing you're gonna be able to do about it.
Really?
Really? Son of a bitch.
Listen, children, to a story that was written long ago about a hill on a mountain and a valley far below. On the mountain was the treasure buried deep beneath the stone, and the valley people swore they'd have it for their very own. God had your neighbor, God had cheated a friend. Do it in the name of heaven, you can justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing, come the judgment day.
How do you do? You have the honor of having with your kicks in Korea. Thank you. Is it true? Do you really can do jump spinning kick? After you? In I guess.
Bong Han introduced audiences to a Korean martial art called Hapkido.
When they first released Billy Jack picture, I went to theater to watch audience reaction. It was incredible. The room warmed everyone. Just simply because never seen any kicking like this in movie history. I was very pleased with that reactions.
are building a fighting force of extraordinary magnitude. We forge our spirits in the tradition of our ancestors. You have our gratitude. And who are they? Refuse, found in waterfront bars. Shanghai? Just lost drunken men who don't know where they are and no longer care.
And these?
These are lost drunken men who don't know where they are, but do care. And these are men who know where they are and care, but don't drink. God! Do you care?
No.
Put this man in number one and give him a drink. 홍초, 밀초, 김치, 짜장면, 전날, 우선법.
Now, are you sure you want to have a fight? Because I'm not going to use my thumb. Thumb? My right thumb. That one's much too powerful for you.
I see many tear-stained faces here, and with good reason. It's always difficult to say a final goodbye to a cherished friend. And Grandmaster Bong Han was not only our friend, but also our mentor, our spiritual advisor, and our role model. His wisdom and decency and honesty impacted the course of my life as it has the lives of many of you. Our cockatiel flew off his perch and landed on Master Han's beautifully coiffed head. Master Han doubled over with laughter. Well, I feared what the bird would do, and he did. On another occasion, when we were at Gladstone's at the beach for our regular Thursday night dinner, Master Han broke open a lobster claw. It went flying across the table and landed on Lisa's plate. Although Master Han was embarrassed, he laughed so hard he cried. At the black belt test last year, and the dinner celebration that followed with his promotion of a handful of students, I was sat with Master Han, and he was forcing himself to focus. It was an important and a good night for him, the best in many, many months. During these last months of his life, many of you who were aware of his illness rooted for him as you'd never rooted for yourselves. You were all one family then, and must remain one now. It was Master Han's wish that Eric Frisky and Danny Cruz, now master instructors, would carry on in his name with the Dojang. You Hapkidoists here today are Master Han's legacy. As holders of the flame he ignited in you, it's your responsibility to keep the flame burning. It's your duty as students to remember where you came from. As instructors, it's your responsibility to make sure that your students don't forget. If there's a lesson to be learned from Master Han's too short life, it's this. To make your dreams come true, you must have the passion and determination to overcome all obstacles, to love and believe in whatever you choose to do. Grandmaster Han will always remain vital and alive in the memory of those of us who had the privilege of knowing and learning from him. He'll always be a part of us, his students and friends, but just in a different manner. His spirit will be part of our actions. That part never dies.
I'd like to call to the podium Grandmaster Han's daughter, Susan.
I would like to thank everyone for coming. I'm sure my dad would be honored to see all the people who are here today, out of love and respect. I'd like to personally thank everyone who helped out during the past year and a half. People have been unbelievably supportive during this difficult period, starting with Master Frisky and Master Cruz, who have been with my father for over 3 decades each, to all the students at the studio and our affiliates, his close personal friends and colleagues like Joe Himes, Grandmaster Shin, Grandmaster Kim, and so very many more. And especially our Aunt Como, who has been with us, and my husband Kevin through the most difficult times. I would now like to share a short story with you about my father. Some time ago, there was a student at my dad's studio who had been training for a number of years. He wanted to test for his black belt. However, due to some personal challenges he hadn't been allowed to test. He was being held back as a group believed he was still not ready. People were saying, we can't promote him. It won't look good for him to be a representative of the studio. One day I was talking to my dad about this, and I asked him what his thoughts were on the matter. He said, of all the people in the studio, he's the one person who needs this the most. He's going to test. This individual tested and was awarded a black belt. The same group that had reservations are now proud of him and say that promoting him was the right thing to do. It's given him a sense of accomplishment. I was deeply humbled by my dad's handling of the situation. These are the types of things he taught me over the years. Someone once asked if it's difficult to have a father who is a public figure. At times it was a challenge for my brother and I. But during moments like these, I realized he had a much bigger family to teach. My father always wanted his legacy to continue in his art form. It is with this wish in mind that I pledge to do everything in my power to continue what he started here in America. I believe our feelings of loss, pain is a reflection of how deeply we loved and cared for someone. But to reflect only on the pain and loss would be a tragic mistake. Now I'd like to dedicate this song to my father. Thank you.